The crash site was nothing short of chaotic. The sky was still streaked with the fading remnants of burning wreckage, and the ground was littered with twisted metal, fire, and the remnants of a battle that had torn the planet's surface apart. The spacecraft had crashed, its systems failing in the middle of a war zone. A human soldier named Captain Elian Stroud had been sent in as part of a recovery team. No one had expected him to find anything but debris, but what he stumbled upon was far more than that. Amidst the wreckage, his eyes fell on a figure, a woman, though that was far from obvious at first glance. Her body was encased in a large suit of cybernetic armor, her limbs and torso a complex system of mechanical parts, wires, and synthetic flesh. Her once imposing figure was crumpled beneath the weight of fallen debris, the remnants of her ship's hull pressing against her chest. She looked old, the metallic surface of her body tarnished with age, yet there was something remarkably human about her face, a sharp contrast to the coldness of her mechanical exterior. Her eyes, though dim, flickered briefly, and that was all Elian needed. Without thinking, he ran over to her, pushing the rubble aside with all his strength. He wasn't a trained medic, but Elian had seen enough in his years on the battlefield to know what to do. He checked her vitals first, hoping she was still alive despite the damage. Her chest barely rose with shallow breaths, and her synthetic heart seemed on the verge of shutting down. "Stay with me," Elian muttered under his breath as he tore through the wreckage to find any tools that might help. His hands were shaking, the adrenaline surging in his veins. He had to keep her alive. For the next few hours, Elian worked tirelessly. He rerouted power from his own suit to hers, tried to stabilize her systems, and reactivated what he could of her internal components. Eventually, after what felt like an eternity, her chest heaved with a deep, mechanical breath. She stirred. "Where am I?" Her voice was a low hum, mechanical but still laced with emotion, like something struggling to resurface from years of neglect. "You're alive," Elian said with a sigh of relief. "You're safe." Her eyes slowly flickered open, revealing a dim blue light that illuminated her once silver irises. She scanned him, studying his face with the same quiet intensity that she had probably used when assessing countless others in her past. She wasn't entirely human. Her features were far too refined, too mechanical. But her gaze held an unmistakable depth, a wisdom that even her half-human heart could not hide. "You saved me," she said quietly, the sound of awe in her voice. "Why?" Elian paused, looking at the damage she had sustained. "No one deserves to die like that. Not alone, not without a chance. I guess I just couldn't leave you behind." She tilted her head, confusion mixed with a spark of something deeper. "I'm no longer what I was. I'm just a machine now." "Not to me," Elian replied. "You're more than your body. You've got a heart, and that's all that matters." They spent the next few days together, as Elian worked to restore the damaged ship's communications and make sure the surrounding area was clear of enemies. But what started as a simple act of saving a life slowly transformed into something more. They talked during long nights, and during the quiet, Elian began to learn about the woman who had once been a highly skilled warrior, a cyborg who had fought for her people in a war that had long since been forgotten. Her name was Liora, and she had been the guardian of a forgotten race, a protector of a species that had vanished long ago in the wake of their own creation. A failure of a forgotten civilization. She had been left behind after the war, abandoned in the rubble of a battle that she had never been able to prevent. "I was built to protect," she said one night, her voice softer than usual. "But I lost everything. I couldn't save them. I failed." Elian sat beside her, understanding the weight of her words. "Sometimes, saving one life is enough to make up for all the losses," he said. "It's not about being perfect, it's about trying, Liora remained silent for a moment, her glowing blue eyes fixed on the starry sky above them. The dust of the battlefield had long since settled, but there was still something about the way she looked that suggested she was unsure of where her place was in the universe. As they continued their journey together, Elian began to realize that something had shifted inside him. What had begun as an act of heroism had evolved into something deeper, something unexpected. He found himself drawn to her, not because of her strength or her mechanical nature, but because of the person she was, the person who had endured countless years of hardship, who had sacrificed everything for others, and who had lived with the scars of war, yet still carried within her the spark of life. One day, as the two of them sat together on the ship, Elian turned to her. "Liora, I know you've been through a lot, but I just wanted you to know that I don't see you as just a machine. You're more than that to me." Leora's expression softened, her eyes searching his face for any sign of deceit. But all she saw was sincerity. She reached out, touching his arm lightly, as if to reassure herself that he wasn't simply seeing her as a tool or a weapon. For the first time in years, Liora felt a flicker of warmth inside her, an emotion she thought she had lost when the war ended and her people faded into history. "I don't know what to say," she murmured, her voice tinged with emotion. "But you've shown me something I thought was gone forever. I may not have a heart the way you do, but somehow you've made me feel like I do." And in that moment, Elian realized that it wasn't just about saving lives, or even about being the hero. It was about finding a connection in the wreckage, a bond forged in the fires of despair. Together, Elian and Liora traveled the galaxy, uncovering new adventures, discovering the true meaning of survival, and proving that even in the darkest corners of the universe, humanity could still inspire hope, even in those who had forgotten what it meant to feel alive. And so, Liora, the cyborg who had once lost everything, was given the one thing she never thought she could have: a second chance at life and a second chance at love.